Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Sports Goofs number 83. We've got a new logo, a new look. Still experimenting with that. And we have another guest with us today, Jeremy Tache of Swings and Mishes. So, of course, I'm joined by my good buddies, Andrew and Charles. How's everyone doing so far today, this evening?
Doing well.
Okay.
Yeah, doing good.
Yeah, everybody's good. Hey, thank you guys for having me on. I'm Jeremy, for those of you who don't recognize this disembodied voice. This is Jeremy, so thank you guys for having me on.
So, Jeremy, you are a noted UCF alum. I'm a Florida State alum, and I do recognize your 2017 national championship, so I'm on your side. So
As you should. As you should. I appreciate that.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention that because Andrew will kill me if I do not acknowledge the championship. All right, and you are, of course, a noted Schitt's Creek aficionado, a show that I have watched a few times over as well.
Oh, it's terrific. I'm in yet another rewatch as we speak. I'm actually in the middle of season 5, watching it first time through with my girlfriend since we moved in together.
Okay, perfect.
And I'll say this: I've seen a lot of people are using Schitt's Creek memes and gifs a lot now. But Jeremy was the first. So
well, thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna take full credit for that one.
Absolutely.
All right. So now that we have you here, we could talk about UCF, but I want to talk about baseball because you, of course, cover the Miami Marlins, my favorite baseball team. Team of I've run Marlins history on Twitter, so I'm very I'm very biased when it comes to the Marlins. But you, of course, work in the media. I write for SB Nation for the Florida Panthers site.
Sure.
But awesome. yeah, Litterbox Cats. So I always have to put on my objective hat when it comes to hockey, but not when it comes to baseball. In any case, we do have questions about the past Major League season. Of course, our boy Don Mattingly just won a National League Manager of the Year.
Yes, he did.
Well-deserved, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. If I could take a second to just talk about that, I don't think there's I'm hard pressed to find a more deserving manager of the year, maybe ever, right? When you have to deal with the amount of roster moves that Don Mattingly did and just sort of meeting guys on the mound for the first time, meeting relievers and piecing together a 5-game win streak coming out of, your whole team, essentially 60% of your team getting COVID. And then, fighting down the stretch, making all the right moves. I mean, it felt like every time he went to a bullpen arm, it ended up working out, whether we all thought it was the right decision in the moment or not. And, just to manage the personalities, to deal with young kids, with older veterans, his relaxed vibe, and his respect for, obviously everyone in the media. I mean, we've always felt respected by him, but his respect for every player he coaches, whether they're supposed to be stars or they're, guys that only got a shot because of all the COVID injury list placements. I just think that he pushed every right button and there's nobody more deserving. And I'm happy for him as a person that he gets to be in that spot. It's
amazing this season. I've been a noted Marlins fan. I was at Game 4 of the 2003 NLDS. I was, and I've stuck through all these years, and a lot of people have stuck through, and amazingly, the fan base. I want to talk about the fan base first, because it's running Marlins history. It's been an eye opener for me because I've seen fans who've been there since '93, and I've seen fans, I guess our age. Millennial / and then I've seen the Gen Zers, the people who didn't see the Marlins in the playoffs or were way too young to have even be able to comprehend the 2003 championship, and how each and every one of us was able to just get some semblance of happiness in this very difficult year for everyone.
Oh gosh, yeah.
It was. I remember when we clinched at Yankee Stadium, and I actually predicted that. If Charles remembers, I said, "What if?"
You're welcome.
Yeah, Charles is a noted New York Yankees fan.
Oh, perfect.
And of course, he loves Donnie Baseball. He loves Derek Jeter and Jorge
Yeah, it gets
Posada.
to be a nice little tie-in.
Yeah, Jorge Posada's with us as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like adapting a stepchild that's not yours, but you still get the chance to.
Exactly.
Sure. All right. You can take credit when you want, and then just
Listen.
step in.
We felt he couldn't take the reins. He couldn't take the reins to be our manager. We instead went with Girardi, but I always like Mattingly, and I think he's had a deserving opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I said, well, what if at the beginning, before the season started, I'm like, what if the Marlins had a chance to clinch a playoff spot at Yankee Stadium? And he's like, don't put that on me. I'm like, it could happen, and sure enough, it did. So I didn't buy any lottery tickets, unfortunately. But that day after we clinched, and I called my dad, I was just in my room, and I was just like going, yes, 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 yes. Like I've been a Miami Heat fan, Florida Panthers fan, the Dolphins as well here in South Florida.
Right.
But I didn't feel the sense of happiness that I felt for the Marlins because of how much adversity that came with the COVID outbreak. And I don't know if you felt that way, seeing the fan base react to their playoff clinching this year.
Gosh, I mean, so what is cool for me in getting to cover this team is, I am a fan. I am a fan of the Marlins. I'm not going to pretend like I'm not. I feel like, and this is the tough balance, and you were just talking about it with reporting on the Panthers, but, I can't pretend like I didn't grow up in South Florida and like I wasn't, the pluckiest and happiest 8-year-old kid when they won in 2003. And that I haven't experienced similar heartbreak to a lot of the rest of the fan base when it came to selling off teams and, all the lack of ability to rebuild over the span of years. And so to see the Marlins make the playoffs now, first, as a, Marlins fan, I called my dad too. I did the same thing. I called my dad and was like, I think I was with my dad, and called friends and was like, this is amazing. This is something that's special, and it's you don't always get to see your team make the playoffs. So from that perspective, I was happy to begin with. But in running the Swings and Mishes account on Twitter and on Instagram, and then running my own account, which is obviously heavy Marlins when the season's going on, to get to interact with so many Marlins fans that were experiencing this type of joy. Whether it be for the first time because they're high school kids who don't remember, the 2003 season or let alone the 97 season, or, adults who have now just gone 15 years without any semblance of success here in Miami on a baseball field. And now to have this team, this group with everything that they overcame, I think there was a bit of a catharsis for Marlins fans. And I also, I weirdly feel like, we talk about the joy that this brought during such unprecedented times, right? And sad times. Let's be frank about it. The last 9 months have been, frankly, really sad across this country, for a multitude of different reasons. And so sports, more than ever, was all of our escapes, right? And then we saw the Marlins inflicted by the thing that we were sort of escaping by watching sports. And to see them overcome that specific thing and end up victorious in their own way. Obviously, there was only so much victory. They only passed through the first round, made the playoffs, won a first-round series. Both of those were sort of miracles in themselves. But to see that happen in that way, I don't know if it's sort of – but for me, it sort of felt like a parallel for, like, there were brighter times ahead on the other side of this pandemic. Like it was, it was a bit of a metaphor for what we could only hope for in that positivity. And I think whether we all realized it consciously or not, that was a bit of the catharsis as well. So it wasn't just, hey, my team finally. It was also despite overcoming this really negative thing that was underneath all of it. So, and to hear stories of fans. I had a woman after one of our live streams on Swings and Mishes reach out to me and say, how thankful they were for our coverage this season, and that she and her husband listened to every episode and watched every Marlins game from Japan.
Wow.
This season. From Japan. It was like, what? How is this happening? This fan base is a lot more diverse than a lot of people.
There's
and a lot more faithful than a lot of people give credit.
There's Marlins UK. He's a pretty good follow too.
He's the best. Peter Pratt is the man. Peter is awesome.
Yeah, he's fun as well.
Yeah, it's terrific. So I was very happy for the fan base, and I was happy to cover a team, a group of guys that really deserved this as well.
I was I'm sorry I'm taking it from Andrew and Charles here, but I have a lot to say here.
Please.
In any case, seeing the entire dynamic of the season, the Bob Nightingale report came out and people were angry about that because he basically made a unfounded speculation as to what happened. And then, of course, our good boy Ricky Bottaligo out in Philadelphia giving us the moniker for our season, the bottom feeders. And that 7-game series against the Phillies was as close to that 2003 series that the Marlins had against the Phillies when they swept them at home as we could get. It was almost a direct parallel or a comparison. So it was beautiful to see as well. And here's a follow-up to that. So I don't know if you've ever watched Foolish Baseball on YouTube.
I've seen a little bit, but I don't know enough.
Okay. So he made a current video about the Marlins and how the Marlins won pandemic baseball.
Sure.
And he made some very valid points as to how the Marlins got to where they were, especially given the outbreak of the virus on the team. But he's kind of akined it to an anomaly that the Marlins made the playoffs in this, of course, expanded playoff format and this and that, even though they did still have a winning record. Do you believe that, given that, whatever happens in 2021, whether it's 162 or if it's shortened, what have you, have the Marlins taken that next step to competing, or are we still waiting for all those guys that even though we brought up a ton of people to fill out the roster from our farm system, we still have guys like Blade and all those waiting. Do you believe that we're getting there, or is it still 2, maybe even 3 seasons away?
Yeah, look, I wouldn't expect the Marlins in 2021 to be world beaters by any means. But I also don't expect them to go back to being sort of a laughing stock. Like, if they were to come in last place in the NL East, would it be the most shocking thing in the world with the Mets going out and looking like they're going to spend $200 million this offseason and the Phillies possibly improving their bullpen, right? Because they would have been a lot better this year if they just
There's nowhere to go but up for the Phillies.
Had a manageable bullpen, let alone good. Right? So there's a lot of really good teams in the National League East. Could the Marlins be the worst of them next year? Sure. But they won't be a bad baseball team. The Marlins could also, depending on the type of moves that they make this offseason, they could very easily find themselves back in the mix to win the division or be a wild card team yet again. In that given health, because that's a huge thing when you have a young pitching rotation. And I think that that's something that Marlins fans do have to set themselves up for, is that can always sort of fall apart, even if you project to go into seasons really well. I mean, think about all those years following that World Series run for the Mets, where they had Harvey and Syndergaard and Wheeler and Matz and DeGrom, and not one time were all of them healthy at the same time. So
that's true.
When you're relying on a specific pitching staff, and right now that's not the deepest. It'll get deeper and deeper as these guys all grow older. Right, but if Alcantara were to get hurt, plugging in Braxton Garrett is not quite the same thing.
Right, it's a massive blow.
Yeah, it's a big blow, right? So, and I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it's just something to keep in mind when you're relying on a young pitching staff, that health is a factor. But if the Marlins make the right type of moves and add, a strong bat for the middle of the order and a corner outfield spot, maybe add a second baseman with some major league experience, although I would love to see Jazz Chisholm get a shot every day personally. Maybe even add at the catcher position. they could be in position to compete yet again. And so I think to just assume that this was a fluke, and this is the important part, more so than even predicting next year, to make this season a quote-unquote fluke because of the shortened season, because of, the expanded playoffs. Number one, the Cardinals would have had to play a couple extra games, and maybe the Marlins themselves handle that final stretch of games a little bit differently if they had to win one or two more, right? Because once they won on Friday night, they did not have to worry about the rest of the weekend. It would be discounting the job that Don Mattingly did, the job that Miguel Rojas did at shortstop, right? The job that Sandy Alcantara, Pablo Lopez, those guys did on the mound, Jesus Aguilar, all these guys that contributed in the types of seasons they had. It would be discounting the work that was done there. So no, I don't think that you can chalk it up to a fluke. And I think that the Marlins should absolutely be competitive next season. I wouldn't start holding out hopes in the type of playoff expectations until the following season, where you do have a JJ Bleday who's gotten some major league at-bats, or maybe even a Peyton Burdick who's come up and gotten some major league at-bats, and all of those prospects have rounded into form a little bit more.
Okay.
I got a question for you on that one, just to add on.
Yeah.
I don't understand how people can say, and listen, I'll say right now, I was one of the few calling it the participation trophy season. We all know that because everybody did. But the thing for the Marlins is that they won their playoff games. You beat San Diego in the first round. Memory serves me right.
Chicago,
that's right. You beat Chicago and you got eliminated by the Braves, right? It's been a bit, so my brain's looking.
Yep.
But you getting there, you beating the better team. The Cubs were a favorite in the beginning of the shortened season. Everybody was writing that David Ross love, though I thought it was just a pass. I wasn't impressed, but they statistically had the better team. So you had a manager who outmanaged, doing what he had to do with a limited roster that had a lot of inexperience. So I don't get how people could say, hey, for all intents and purposes, it's the bottom feeders they get in, because the same thing would be for the Astros. I'll tell you right now, I despise them. They are my real enemy. Forget the Yankees and the Red Sox rivalry. That's dead in the water. It means nothing to me. It's all Astros. But I'm not going to discredit the fact that they got to the ALCS to get there, because it's I think what happens is sometimes you take away, and I like how you mentioned about Mattingly needs to get his just desserts. That's what he's getting here with his love, is that you can't take away what, like Dusty Baker did. And I love Dusty. I want to see him win a ring. But the fact that he was going to be a bad guy killed me. And for Mattingly, the biggest joke was the fact that he was just sipping Mai Tais in Miami, knowing that he was going to be a fall guy. That's what I felt. He went from a high-pressured situation in the Dodgers land. And he just went for the paycheck. But now you actually see, with 3 years of consistency, with uneasy pressure, is there a championship team there? Is there ever a championship team in any team? In the beginning of the season, there's always a chance, right? But
exactly, and that was their whole thing.
Yeah, and I don't think they should discredit that.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Okay, and this is my final question, and I'll let Andrew, because he wants to talk about managers. But are you for or against the designated hitter in the National League?
So I'm super old school. I love pitchers in lineups, mostly because I think it's a part of the chess game that matters, right? That we took a lot of responsibility away from Don Mattingly when we added that DH, right? All he had to do was really manage a bullpen, and strategically now it's changed a lot to have the DH. That being said, it made baseball a lot more consistently competitive. It's certainly, from watching a team that absolutely benefited from having the DH, because they could have Aguilar and Cooper in the lineup every day. It changed a lot about National League Baseball, and I do maybe think for the better. I know it's inevitable at some point, so I sort of think that next year they might as well just throw in the DH in the National League and go forward, because why go back to go forward again?
Right.
And I'm certainly going to miss the having to work your way through a game knowing, hey, that 9 spot's coming up. It certainly helps a pitcher. It changes approach for managers, for hitters, for all of it. But if we're trying to make the most entertaining game possible, watching a guy who hits, 0-40 is not the right thing to bring in new fans. Let's just be honest.
We don't have to wait 20 years to see Bartolo Colon hit a home run. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll miss it. Trust me. I mean, that was
right.
that was one of my favorite baseball memories. I weirdly was watching that game live on MLB Network as it happened, and was just losing my mind. But we'll have to memorialize those moments.
Right.
Just in the back of our minds, and tell our kids, our grandkids. Yeah, they used to have the pitcher hitting. It was crazy. Those guys. But someday we'll be able to tell those stories.
All right, Andrew. Do you have any questions? I've been taking over for too long here.
I guess, two questions really. The first one is kind of bouncing off what Francisco was talking about. I agree with you. I think I was dead set on no DH in the National League, but I've just kind of come to accept it after this year.
Right.
But then my second thing is I was dead set going into the season about the whole thing with starting extra innings with a runner on base. And having seen it happen this year, I'm actually a fan.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me a lot of, and it would either have to be this way or no way at all. It kind of reminds me of how in the NHL they have the quick 3-on-3 5-minute overtime,
right,
followed by a shootout. Because you don't want to be doing 5 overtimes just for a
right,
quote-unquote meaningless regular season game.
Mm-hmm.
And as we all know and love, baseball does not end in ties.
Exactly.
So what are your thoughts on that?
I actually am a bit of a fan of keeping it for the regular season. I think that over the span of 162 games, you're only playing so many extra inning games. And so for the folks who worry about the competitive balance aspect of that, they're like, oh, it could shift a game this way or the other. First of all, both teams get their chance. It does make it a little closer to feeling like those college overtime rules, which I think we all kind of love. Let's be honest, it's the most entertaining overtime. College football overtime is by far the most entertaining overtime. And so to make extra innings sort of feel that way, where no matter what happens, you're starting with a rally, right? Like, even if the other team scores 3 runs in the top half of the 10th inning, you kind of feel like you have a shot for whatever reason, even though you shouldn't. It doesn't really change that much. You're not in that much of an advantage, but starting with a guy on second and a guy having to go out of the stretch, it's fun. It's high leverage, and I think as long as you're not doing it in the playoffs, where you're trying to make sure that the game is as consistent as possible, I don't mind, for the 7 or 8 times you go into extra innings in a given season, if that much, if it's done that way, and it creates something that's really entertaining for the fans. And to be honest with you, I also think, and this is going to sound nuts, and it's going to sound crazy from a guy who just called himself a traditionalist, but I think that once a month they should do Saturday doubleheaders that are 7 innings. I just think selling a clean ticket to both games is just the ultimate, like, bringing kids back into baseball. You get bang for your buck. You're getting 14 innings instead of 9. You're getting a bunch of different players. You're getting the excitement of the end of games twice. And if you do it 1 time a month, so it's like 5 Saturday doubleheaders, you're eliminating 10 total innings of baseball. Is that really the end of the world for the record books? Is that the end of the world for the stat books at the end of the day? So I actually think that would be something just monetarily. Like, I kind of loved the 7-inning doubleheaders, and I know it totally changed the game. Watching Marlins games, it's half the reason they made the playoffs was because they just figured out how to win those doubleheaders.
Right.
And they had the ability to. So it does change the game. But if every team did it, 1 Saturday a month, and what you could do is you could always make it a division game. So that's how you could know, like, you know what I mean? That's how you could know that everybody's evened it out properly schedule-wise.
Right.
Because it's always in division. I think it's something worth looking at. Some of these new rules were not that bad.
Okay.
And then my other question is, and I had mentioned this to you before, and I really want to get to it. Tony La Russa. Unfortunately, Francisco earlier in the show ruined my punchline, which I hate him for.
Oh, sorry.
But I was going to say that LaRusso seems to be up Schitt's Creek right now.
Hey, I love it. It was still a great punchline.
All right, thank you. Now, I mean, I'll let you do most of the talking since you're the guest, but what the hell are the White Sox thinking? They knew about this and they still hired him?
Yeah,
and,
oh, go ahead. Sorry about that.
And then, like, as I told Francisco, I don't really have much sympathy for people who have DUIs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like no one knows what they are and how to avoid them. But
Right.
then also the whole thing of I'm a Hall of Famer, showing the rings. Like, what a jerk.
No, you know what? You could just repeat clip that "what a jerk" and just keep replaying it for about 10 minutes, and that could just be my response. This guy, Tony La Russa. Well, so first of all, it was a horrible hire before any of this, shit, SCHITT shit show. I mean, this is really a mess, and La Russa is just, I don't understand why when you have a young, vibrant, mostly Black and Hispanic team, why you would hire Tony La Russa to be the manager of that group of guys. A 50-year age gap between him and most of his players. Okay, so he's literally 200% of their age for a lot of their players. Live their life 3 times and you're Tony La Russa's age. Okay? He's the same guy who a decade ago was in Arizona promoting some kind of racist laws for Sheriff Joe. Like, there's some not great stuff in the background of Tony La Russa to begin with, including a previous DUI. Let the man just sit back and be a baseball Hall of Famer and let us all forget about some of the negative stuff. And don't get me wrong, La Russa was the manager of some of my favorite teams. I grew up rooting hard for Big Mac. I was a diehard Mark McGwire guy. I loved the Bats. He was there in Oakland, too. And, I mean, obviously that was before my time. But La Russa is a Hall of Famer for a reason. But now is not the time to bring him back. It's the strangest pairing to try to pair Tim Anderson with Tony La Russa. And then you're going to not even undermine, but you're Jerry Reinsdorf, who is just doing your buddy a favor, right? You're undermining your general manager. You're going over his head. Not going over his head, you are over his head, but you're making a decision without him even being a factor. You're hiring Tony La Russa. We come to find out, knew that the night before you hired him, he had a DUI. The night before. Like, it's not even a few weeks removed the night before he has a DUI. And how is that person who can't relate to his players to begin with, who now has gotten hired not really based off the present day merit, but based off of old time merit from before half these kids were born, supposed to be in a position to have any sort of real authority with his players? I mean, seriously, like, he looks like a joke. And now all these guys who love celebrating, who love the passion of the game, are going to be told to rein it in by old school Tony La Russa, who now has no authority because they lied about, or not lied, but they're not punishing him for having a DUI the night before he's hired. How are any of these players supposed to deal with any sort of punishment from him? It's just all around a complete mess. And the fact that Jerry Reinsdorf, of all people, is the guy making this call after watching The Last Dance earlier this summer is just, it's like it's a chef's kiss. It's perfect. It couldn't be better.
Yeah, he's throwing 2 franchises into the ground.
And I just want to ask on that, just to add on, because there's always that cronyism in baseball, but there's always every sport is that if you have one minor bit of success, they'll take away that one ring, that multiple rings that you have, and they'll forget about all the bad seasons. Not that Tony La Russa really ever had bad seasons, but it's the equivalent. Yeah, it's the equivalent of like Joe Torre. And I love Joe. Joe, I wanted to put Joe to pasture around like 2005, to be honest with you. Really, I wanted to do it in 2003. Really, I wanted to do it in 2004. But if Joe came back today, and Joe's old, but I think Joe's like 78. But if Joe came back today,
not that much older than Tony La Russa.
No, but after he comes back, I think there's that kind of that free pass, that whole you paid your dues and we're going to trust you more, because part of it I feel is that it's not like football where there's that young upstart head coach that could possibly be a former candidate. There's not Matt Nagy's, and he's the first one to pick up because everybody was running on that. There's the guys who are suppressed, like Eric Bieniemy, and then everybody else, or the Mike Zimmers who had to pay their dues. In baseball, you never see it. In baseball, you see a lot of recidivism. Like Buck Showalter, all respect to him. Buck Showalter is just everywhere, right? He's through the decade. Well, I'm 31. My God, I can remember through every decade of baseball that I've been a fan since 1995. When you get that resentment, and I think it's because you can't look at as a bench coach, you're like you, or a pitching coach is like, because it's not as if anybody can go and be like, oh, hey, Charles, remember these great Yankee people left. Like, man, he was just waiting around, and he was supposed to be the heir apparent. They didn't want him in New York. It was pretty clear cut. The Steinbrenner didn't want him. So he went to follow him in the Dodgers, and it goes from there. So that's somebody who's tagging along. So look at Dusty Baker. Dusty at 78, too, is just the other example. So I think in baseball, it's really that there's no such thing as a sexy hire. There's no such thing as an offensive genius, defensive genius that you might get in football or you might get in basketball. And baseball is really like Tony's got 3 rings, I think.
You know what the shame of it is? You know who the guy should have been that was the sexy hire, because what I would define as a sexy hire in modern baseball is simply young enough to relate to his players and bilingual. And for that matter, when you say bilingual, a lot of the time that includes a general cultural understanding in terms of bicultural. It was Carlos Beltran.
Oh, wow.
It was, and
you
then everything went down with him. No, I get it. No, but despite what ultimately ended up coming to be, despite what we ultimately found out was going on with Beltran and Cora and that whole Astros group, the irony is really Alex Cora, Carlos Beltran. That's the mold you should be following, right? Guys who, ironically, played during the steroid era. And toward the tail end of it. So they're old enough to appreciate the game, young enough to relate to their players. Not 75, but 45. And, just a few years out of the game in that way. Look at David Ross. But also bilingual, bicultural, because you want to be able to relate to everybody on your team. That's your job as a manager. You have to be the ultimate people person in baseball. Because like we just mentioned, what is there really left to manage? I mean, we just watched a World Series where analytics managed the Rays. Kevin Cash certainly didn't, right? So, there's only so many human decisions left to be made. So what it's really more about is being able to coach guys through slumps, being able to handle guys in terms of platooning playing time, because there's so much platooning now, and then being able to relate to your players and make sure that the entire team is getting along well. It's where Don Mattingly's godsend is Miguel Rojas, who is a bilingual mensch of a human being.
Right.
And really, ultimately, when Miguel Rojas retires, he'd be like, it would be a dream come true if Miguel Rojas was ultimately a Marlins manager. Because as a bilingual guy that relates to every single player in his clubhouse, that's all you can ask for at this point in a manager. It's no longer necessarily about the strategy. It really isn't. And when it used to be, it's why you saw so many former catchers becoming managers, because those are the only guys where, like you just said, it's like hiring an offensive coordinator. With that catcher already that he gets the little things of the game, because he has to, because he's the one calling pitches and approaching the game from that perspective. So it's why you so often, and you can go back to Joe Torre as an example, right? You can go back to Joe Girardi as an example. All these guys that have been former catchers, that Mike Matheny, David Ross, all these guys now too, that were catchers from the beginning. So, yeah, it's a strange time in baseball, gentlemen.
And I just want to touch on that real quickly, and I'll leave it at best. What I've noticed is the sexy hires tend to be who? Guys who have media experience. Aaron Boone.
Absolutely.
No coaching whatsoever, but he's personal. David Ross was doing some stuff. So it's kind of like that hard transition, because just because you're a media guy doesn't mean you can be charming, but doesn't mean you can lead these young men or adult men that come into it. But I think but it's like we're not going to see McGuire. McGuire was bench coach for the Marlins, right? You know, he was coming as the hitting coach, right? You're not going to see him get the opportunity, partially because of the name, but I don't get that appeal of it because Ross and Boone were both kind of fresh out of the game for, you know, Ross retired for 1 year, Boone was retired for about a good 4, and then bam, automatic job. What's next? A-Rod? Because if you're looking at personality, hear me out.
Oh, kill me.
The way you look at the pattern, what you just said, bilingual, gets people, gets paydays. What do you guys want?
He's a sociopath. He's not. He doesn't like anybody. He has no emotions. That guy. Don't even. We're going to talk about him like
AJ Hinch probably slaughters children, but now he's the Detroit Tigers manager.
Oh
so,
my God.
You know, look on that. So that's what scares me a little bit because you don't have to be.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
My closing thought is like you don't have to be the most personable person, advertisable to Fox News Fox Sports and ESPN to be hired as a manager. And if you notice, those media guys are not bilingual or they don't have an accent because of Eduardo Perez. When he used to do baseball tonight, I found him the most interesting besides Crosby.
Oh, he was the best. So
that kind of maybe there's an agenda. I don't know. That's just me.
There's constantly agendas throughout sports, obviously, and it's not just about appeasing. Oftentimes, you know, the media. It's obviously appeasing your owner as well, and that's a more complicated conversation. But the one thing I was just going to close on, and the thing that I was going to say is, I probably should not have come on your podcast and called Alex Rodriguez a sociopath. I probably should not have done that if I want to have a future in this business. But here we are.
I'd say a lot worse.
That would be our big break if Alex Rodriguez was listening to this. So
I guess it would, but maybe not quite sociopath. Maybe that's a little far.
I could edit that out of the podcast.
That maybe no. Please leave it. No. I think it's important that people understand my emotional and visceral reaction to you bringing up Alex Rodriguez as a possible managerial candidate. But I also think that I should probably rephrase it at a future date. So sometime. It's good that I got this out now so that the next time someone asks me, I'm not pulling that one out. But guys, I do appreciate you guys having me on. I do have to get going, unfortunately. But I really, really appreciate the time and the conversation. You guys are awesome, and I'd love to come back on if you would have me.
Thank you,
Jeremy.
Thank you. For those at Jeremy Tache on Twitter, at Swings and Mishes, also on Twitter. Check out their podcast if you love the Marlins. If you love baseball, go and listen to them. Thank you, Jeremy. Hopefully we'll talk to you some other time.
Yeah,
thank you again.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. So, all right. Wow. Thank you, Andrew, for getting him on the show. That was fun.
It's actually probably the most insightful baseball that we have, besides Charles just screaming F the Astros, F the Astros, F the Astros. I was developed. I was in. Not that I don't love you guys, but I have my biasness every time we talk. So now I'm like, hey, let's go from there. And we also do realize that Alex Rodriguez is a psychopath. Jeremy can't say because he has a business career. I'm just a lawyer. I
wish we had an hour with him because I was about to say. I mean, Alex Rodriguez is definitely not a player's person anymore. He is definitely not, especially with the comments that he made about the players, sucking it up and going to play and taking pay cuts and all that stuff. No way is he a player's person. He tried to buy the Mets. He was not. He is definitely not personable to the players. Him as a manager, oh my God, it would be great. It'd be fun to see. It'd be fun to see all the insanity that would happen, just the fights and stuff like that. But man. I love Freddie's suggestions here. Just say you meant Bender Rodriguez from Futura or Aaron Rodgers.
I think Bender Rodriguez has more of a soul. Bender Rodriguez. I love that episode.
Yes. Okay. Man, where do we go from here? Woo. All right. Let me. I have to readjust. 1 second. Oh boy. We have a new look and stuff like that, and everything's so new. Everything's so different. So
you want to talk about that really quick?
What? No. It's not even finished. It's not even finalized. We're gonna next week. Our YouTube suspension ends, and we're gonna come back with a bang with a completely the new look will be finalized. It'll kind of look sort of like this. I'm still tweaking some stuff. So don't worry about that. Let me get some small sections out of the way, just to get this done here. What did I have here? Oh, okay. So let's do better know minor league team. I can get this one down quick, and I have a nice segue for I can knock two birds with one stone. Unfortunately, it looks like MLB is going with their plan to gut, especially the New York Penn League. So I'm gonna highlight these teams while I can. So the Batavia Muckdogs is the team I'm highlighting today. They play out in Batavia, New York. This team was established in... no, I'm not going to donate to Wikipedia. This team was established in 1939. This is how far back some of these franchises go, which is sad to see that we're just cutting them off. They're not even going to have major league affiliations, or they're going to have to fight to try and find some for teams that probably want an extra affiliate or not. So they've got several names, but their current name is the Muckdogs. They were in the New York Penn League, which was a short A league. Oh, do you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. For some reason, my TV turned off, but I'm still here. Okay. So that's the stream is still going, so don't worry. They're currently the affiliate of the Miami Marlins, is why I know them pretty well since 2013, but of course affiliations with the Cardinals, the Phillies, the Indians, the Mets, the Pirates. They've got 4 championships. Their last in 2008. As far as notable alumni rosters, Cito Gaston, who was the manager of the Blue Jays when they won their back-to-back World Series in 92 and 93. Matt Carpenter, Doc Ellis, pitcher for the Pirates in the 70s, when they I think he got 1 or maybe even 2 of their championships in 71 and 79. Our favorite, Joe Kelly, was a Muckdog. J.A. Happ, who Charles called trash a few episodes ago.
We are letting him go. I'm very happy. I'm hoping for John Lester. Guys, sometimes you just know. You're going to figure out what kind of 38-year-old you want to just die on your rotation. John Lester is the guy I want to die on my rotation. To be my 5th or 4th guy, have 1 good game, that's it. I don't want J.A. Happ. No, there'll be people who do want him. Go ahead, have my sloppy seconds. I don't care.
And because they used to be affiliated with the Phillies, we see a lot of Phillies here. Ryan Howard, Lance Lynn, Chase Utley, Ned Yost played for them when he was young. Ricky Williams, yes, that Ricky Williams, when he was
Really?
he was drafted by the Phillies. Yeah. This is the second time we've mentioned Ricky Williams on a minor league baseball team.
Huh.
So that Ricky Williams, yes, and also so that's a former NFL player and a former NHL player. Murray Oliver was a Batavia Muckdog. They play at Dwyer Stadium in Batavia, New York. And this transitions into player remember forget, and that player we're remembering is Murray Oliver. So there's the transition there, guys. Yes, I worked really hard on this. Okay. So Murray Oliver, it just flowed so naturally. There he is with the Boston Bruins. Played in the NHL. He was a center. Originally played for the Detroit Red Wings, then the Bruins, then the Maple Leafs, and then ended his career with the Minnesota North Stars. Played about 274 games. 1,127 games. 274 goals, 454 assists, 728 points in 18 seasons. Here and there for the National Hockey League. Unfortunately, he died in 2014 at the age of 77. Made 2 All-Star teams, and in 1983 he coached the Minnesota North Stars for 37 games, and he lost in the playoffs, and he had a very, very short stint in minor league baseball, 8 games only. They were touting him as like this great athlete, like one of the most athletic players they'd ever seen, and he went out and played baseball, and he very much sucked hard at baseball, but didn't suck hard at hockey. So at least he had a backup plan there. So those are my two small segments here. Actually, I can knock out some more because we're probably going to dedicate the second half to football. Got college and NFL. So let's do a let's haul, y'all. Let's stick with the Canadian goodness right here. We're gonna do the Steve Nash.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay.
Steve Nash. NBA Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame class of 2018, point guard, of course, out of Santa Clara, drafted in 1996, legendary draft class, 15th overall in the first round, played for the Dallas Mavericks, the Phoenix Suns, and the Los Angeles Lakers. And much like with Ray Allen, what more can we say about Steve Nash? 5-time assist champion, 2-time MVP, 8-time All-Star, 7-time All-NBA. He was born in South Africa to British parents and moved to Canada, so he's got dual citizenship in the UK and in Canada. Played soccer and hockey when he was growing up, and then like at the age of 12, he's like, I feel like playing basketball, and then just became super amazing at it.
Soon to possibly be coach of the year with the Nets.
Well, yeah, now he's the coach of the Brooklyn Nets. He's going to have a nice and healthy Kevin Durant with him. He is the senior advisor of Team Canada's basketball team. He is the godfather of RJ Barrett. So
Really?
Yeah.
And apparently he dated Nelly Furtado.
Promiscuous. Now I got the song in my head. Damn it, I won't sing the Promiscuous of 2003. But I just want you all to know that it's there and it was a banger, okay? You guys care about I'm Like a Bird? I like the whole... beautiful, mind you. But two, it's just, Canadian singers, what do we got? Snow? We need something more. We need diversity up in here.
So yeah, godfather to RJ Barrett. And... Canada only has one road, so all Canadians know each other. So there you go. All right, so that's Steve Nash. There's a lot more we can say about him, but gosh darn it, man. This is the one guy that I wish he had won a ring when he was playing.
Well, one accolade on it that's not addressed. Kept and made Mike D'Antoni relevant, because if it wasn't for Steve Nash and Amari in their time in Phoenix, I don't think he would have that longevity as a coach the way he did in LA. And you saw how it really didn't work because he didn't have the right pieces. And then the way he did Houston, I don't want to say James Harden and Steve Nash because they had very different appeals because, shooter versus distributor and shooter. But that's something big there. It's like saying how Jerry Sloan was known for Malone and Stockton. Imagine, we saw what happened when Jerry Sloan didn't have those guys. You just had average teams building into it. So did the player make the team or did the coach make the team? And the Steve Nash debate for those Phoenix Suns is it was the player, not the coach.
Right. Yeah. Gosh, what was it? 2007 or one of those Phoenix Suns teams where like if they had just gotten deep into the playoffs, if they had not lost to, I think it was like the Lakers, one of those seasons.
I think it was 2006.
I don't know, or against the Spurs, or against the Mavericks, whichever team they faced off against. They probably, the Heat probably don't even win a championship in 2006. I don't even know if they. That would have been an interesting matchup. See them against that Suns team. Anyways, Steve Nash. There we go. Okay. So next one. I got You Go Girl. We're going to keep to, I guess, hockey in some sense. I've got Kathryn Tappen. You guys don't know who she is?
I can't say that I do.
Okay, so I'm sure if you've watched NBCSN, she's the hostess on a lot of their NHL pre and post game shows and intermission reports. So Kathryn Tappen, she works for NBC Sports Network. She went to Rutgers. She's from New Jersey. Four-time academic All-American. She got a scholarship to Rutgers for cross country and track, and so she went to school for journalism, and then she moved her way on up from local television, then went over to NESN, and then finally reached the NHL network, and then from there naturally jumped on over to NBC in 2014. She won a Woman of Inspiration Award in 2014, and in 2006 won Associated Press Award. So there you go.
An honor.
Kathryn Tappen.
You go, girl.
She's been on, and just NHL. I think she worked on the NHL Network in 2011. Something. I think it's right here. So I guess for like almost the past decade, I guess we can associate her with hockey. I'm sure she did stuff with the Bruins when she was on NESN as well. So she's moved on up. She's there. She's one of the bright spots of NBC Sports Network's coverage of hockey. Me and Andrew have a lot of criticism about NBC Sports Network's coverage of hockey, but she's not one of them. I can tell you that much myself. Okay, we can all. Mike Milbury is an eternal goon. Okay, and the fact that Kathryn Tappen has had to deal with him and his asinine comments is in and of itself commendable, because I'm surprised nobody has strangled him on the air. So, all right. Let's see. Oh man, we are. I'm going at a clip here with these small segments here. Can I do? You know what, guys? Let's dedicate. We're 8 minutes into our halfway point for the show. The real MVP, guys. We have to pay our respects.
All right.
It's Alex Trebek.
Yes.
And we're I guess the Canadian theme continues. All right.
Team Canada, really. That's what this episode is about.
Yeah. So Alex Trebek, unfortunately, passed away to pancreatic cancer. Andrew, can you lead the charge on what we think about cancer?
Fuck cancer.
There we go. Yeah. He's 80 years old, and it's always funny seeing, I guess we can all have our Jeopardy experiences, and I'm sure all of us have seen Jeopardy in some way, shape, or form. It's a staple for a lot of people, millions of people, a staple of their everyday coming home from work. It's always playing, was it after the 6 o'clock news, between 7 and 7:30 or 7 and 8, you got Jeopardy, and then you've got Wheel of Fortune. You got those two back to back. And so Alex Trebek has been a constant, and it's in a year where a lot of things have gone horribly wrong, and we've lost so many people. Man, this is it's gonna be weird having a world without Alex Trebek in it. I had
This year sucks.
Yeah, personal reasons. Last Saturday was pretty good for me, but and I'm sure a lot of people can agree with me. But this one's a really bad one. So
and it came so quickly after such a jubilant moment for some of us. It really kind of took the wind out of the sails, as it were. We all hoped that we knew this was coming. Let's be honest. I hate to sound negative, but pancreatic cancer is not an easy one to come back from, let alone that it was in stage 4. we admired how uplifting and how positive he was about his prognosis. But that's kind of in the back of our heads. Everyone kind of knew that he wouldn't be able to get past this one, but nonetheless, it still hurts a lot.
Yeah. I guess in the world of sports, we get, and it's always fun to see on Twitter whenever Jeopardy had a sports question, because Jeopardy, of course, reaches far and wide for all of their trivia. So you'll see them mention, like us, obscure minor league teams that nobody else would even care about. But those teams get their 15 minutes of fame whenever Jeopardy mentions them or mentions a sports team or a player or what have you. And we always get the laugh whenever you have those big brain people up there that have absolutely no idea who any of these subjects with regards to sports. What fish-based baseball team plays in Miami, or was it this fish-based baseball team plays in Miami? What is the Miami Dolphins? You get that, and we tweet about it and we laugh. Look at all these nerds. They can't even talk about sports, even though I just watched maid-based anime a few days ago.
We don't judge, Francisco.
Oh, we don't judge. Remember, I spawn at the Palm Beach County Library, so every few years. So Alex Trebek is a staple of life, and it's gonna suck. I don't even know. I'm sure they're gonna get a new host for the show or something like that.
No,
but
you cancel it, man. Like it's hard. So, not to attack on Alex Trebek. Two things. One, I have a non-Jeopardy moment that made me love Alex Trebek, and it's not SNL. It's the episode of The Golden Girls with Dorothy tries to Charles loves Golden Girls, by the way. Where Dorothy tries to try out for Jeopardy, and she just has a dream where it's Blanche and Rose and everything and I think all four of them are in there, and he was just hysterical coming into it. If memory serves me correctly, yes. But the other thing about it was anybody who watches the SNL skits, they know about the Sean Connery, Alex Trebek
who we've
that
also
they
lost
created.
as well.
We did, and I'm not going to try to be insensitive with it, but there's a way of how I would explain to it. The memes are hysterical. Go listen to it. Go from there. But this is what I would tell you. When Sean Connery went, you mourn him, you miss him out for a lot of stuff coming into it. But you can make a contention of who is the best James Bond. I do like Daniel Craig, I'm not gonna lie, but I love me some Sean Connery. Him and I share the same birthday, so now the August 25th patrol is just up to me, Tim Burton, and Elvis Costello. Damn it, Gene Simmons, okay, that's fine. Aside from hard drugs, but you can make the contentions of there should be other Bonds, or there's better Bonds or Bonds that fit in. I can't do it, man. I can't see somebody else hosting Trebek the same way of how Drew Carey does The Price is Right. It's not the same. Plus, I also kind of don't like Drew Carey. It's just me. Ever since he lost the weight, it's just, no. He kind of looks like a lunchbox of a body now. I'm not about this. But I can't see it. Just cancel it. I don't need to feel smart at the gym anymore. Get rid of it. It's done. But that's my thoughts on Alex. I can't say they should replace it. What do you guys say on that?
I mean, I get where you're coming from. But I would add that Trebek was not the first host of Jeopardy either.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, that's going to be tough to replace him. I think if anyone replaces him, I know the popular pick is Ken Jennings.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
You have all these. You have examples in other legendary shows. Of course, Johnny Carson with the Tonight Show. If they were able to replace him, they can move forward, and you can have a different dynamic. So, it's just we have to be willing to change, and willing to accept change, and well, sometimes change comes whether we like it or not.
Yeah, we'll see. But, since Charles brought up a favorite memory of his, I'll do one, and then Francisco, if you want to do one, and then I'll mention...
You can mention yours, and then we have to move on to our midway segment.
Okay. So growing up in Orlando, I went to Disney a not insignificant number of times. My favorite park being Epcot. And the place that I saw him the most, quote unquote, was on the Universe of Energy ride. And I don't know, that's, unfortunately the ride is no longer, unfortunately, which saddened me deeply. It was a 40-minute dark ride, as they call them, which is you just kind of sit in a car and go along lazily. It's a nice way to get out of the summer, or any heat for that matter. But it was just fun. And, that was kind of the most experience I had with him, because I didn't really watch the show that much. Although I do know that I followed along pretty well with the Ken Jennings saga. And then before we go, probably one of the last more notable things that Trebek did in his lifetime was he announced the third overall pick in the 2020 NHL draft.
Yep.
You're the big hockey fan, right?
He's Canadian.
Oh yeah, I guess it speaks for itself, right?
Yes. And he announced he was for Ottawa, correct?
Yep.
So I believe he was an Ottawa fan.
He's from Sudbury, so yeah, and it's nice that he's an Ottawa fan. He's not a Leafs fan.
Right. The very in vogue thing to do is to be a Leafs or a Canadiens fan.
Even though that's Ottawa's okay. That's an aside. I don't want to get into that, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yeah, that's it for me.
All right. So we're gonna move on to our middle segment. Who wants to do the? I guess I'm gonna have to ask this every time. Who wants to do the send off to the real sponsors thing today? Charles did it last time. Do you want to do it, Andrew? You'll finish third for today, and you can send it off. And now here's our actual sponsors. Aside from Destiny 2 and there was another video game that was popping up today.
I think it was Paradox Interactive or something like that.
Well, that's the developer. So it was like Star something. Another
Star Union.
Star. There we go. So
the new expansion for Age of Wonders: Planetfall. Thank you for helping us sell out. We appreciate you.
All right. So Andrew, you can go third. So sure. Let's get into a word from our non-sponsors, people, places, things, concepts, anything that we've been enjoying over the last week. I don't know if Charles, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Yeah, I could start. And okay. I'll tell you now, I'm kind of cheating because I'm going to use two because it's important to today. So you'll call it Jeremy's because he's an unofficial goof. Now that he sold out and joined us, so made us contribute. So your boy has had a long effing day. I've been up since like 6. I had a 2-hour court hearing that was just all twists and turns without going into details of my case of nice little unexpected surprises. So I was just kind of exhausted. But there's a couple things I took notice of. One, today's payday, boys. For me, I get paid every Wednesday. I was like, oh, this is great. I get to pay bills and hate my life. But, because tomorrow's Veterans Day, so the banks pay me. It's great. So I was like, all right, I got to treat myself for being successful. So, and we've mentioned it before, but it's Tuesdays, and what does Tuesdays usually comport to? Tacos, baby. And what does Charles love? Tacos. Charles loves tacos. Hard tacos, soft tacos, burritos.
I had Taco Bell today.
It counts. It counts. If it's got taco in the name, it's taco on the game, baby. So I didn't want to go to my usual, place. So I was like, okay, let's switch up a little bit. Instead, I went to Moe's for their Taco Tuesdays.
Oh.
And for $6.48, you get 2 tacos. you get you get a drink and you get their nice little chips. And I got a beef and I got a chicken, and it was a well-deserved treat because normally my lunch was probably going to be my, roast beef and cheese sandwich, because part of the way of living cheap is acting like you're broke, and that usually comes into lunch. If I can control it, I try to make it seem like I don't have money in the account, so I don't eat out all the time, boys. That's like my mentality. That's what leads me to succeed and pay off any loans, car payments, whatever you have in this world. It was delicious. I loved it. It hit the spot. The amount of sour cream I feel that you put in a soft taco is so indicative of what kind of thing that you get. Because sometimes it's too runny. Sometimes it's just right. Mm-hmm. But man, I was feeling it. I've sponsored Moe's before. I'm sponsoring Moe's again because I think it's the first time I've had their tacos. Normally I'm a burrito guy. Because my thought process with burritos, folks, goes as this. Why do I have to pay for two when I can get the big one? Let me get the big one. But I want them tacos. Taco Tuesday. Let's do it right. So Moe's, Jeremy's non-sponsor. That's what we call it. Promo code Tuesdays to make it cool. Be like TUEZDAZE. And then the component to it. Guys, I had a freaking 2-hour hearing today. Most of my domestic violence hearings go about 45 minutes to an hour. But there's a lot of technological issues. And it's tax information. It was something that was really 50-50 at its heart of hearts. I didn't really have anything to kind of work with, but you can make chicken poop out of, or chicken salad, chicken poop, as Kobe says. But I was tired at the end of the day, so I went to Wawa's. And I had an energy drink called A-Shoc. I don't know if it's a house sponsored bit of Wawa's or whatever, how like Racetrack has Left Hook, but you know what? It felt like good, tasty, clean energy. I was awake.
What's it called?
A-Shoc. A-SOC.
A-Shoc.
It's like how all the white guys, their name Adam, call themselves A-Bomb. Just think of it like that. No offense to guys named Adam who call themselves A-Bomb.
Does it have a K or is it like just a C?
I think it's just a C.
Okay, here it is. A-Shoc. A shock makes smart energy. Here we go.
So I don't know if that's Wawa's or Racetrack, or not Racetrack, but Wawa's or just their own independent brand, because there's so many energy drinks out there.
It stands for adrenaline shock.
Well, that's fancy. Normally, I just kind of just take a caffeine pill, but I didn't have any on me. And plus, I kind of want the taste of it, because my caffeine pills are generally like, 200 milligrams if I break it up. But this one, a Cy berry or a Kai berry or whatever the hell you call it, I liked it. It was tasty. I didn't crash. My eyes still felt a little heavily hooded, but I was able to survive. I'll have some of it tomorrow. So thank you, Wawa's A-Shoc, for keeping me awake after a weird day. Thank you, Moe's being Jeremy's sponsor, because right now he's like, hey guys, do this. I'm like, great. Promo code for A-Shoc, A-Bomb. There you go. A-Bomb.
Okay. All right. So the Charles.
All right. So Freddie says he's in a 7-Eleven, so then it's A-Shoc, not Wawa's.
Okay. All right. So I guess I'll do mine. So guys, over the past week, just doing stuff for the show and everything like that, and I designed a new logo for us. Nice and slick, fancy. Looks like a modern logo, not a templated thing from before. This is I sat there and designed it, and I have to give a freaking non-sponsor to freaking Adobe Photoshop. Even Adobe in general, Adobe Suite, whatever you want to call it, man. I'll just put Adobe Suite because it's everything. It's Illustrator, it's freaking Photoshop, or freaking the entire thing. Yeah, the entire thing, man. It is. If you are creating media, this is it. This is the end all be all. This is what you use. This is what you pay for. This is what you pirate if you can't pay for it. Like, this is the gold standard for creating anything and everything visually or sound. It is, man, the work that these people do. And I've been using, I've studied this. I've been using versions of their software since I was a teenager, when I had Adobe Photoshop 7. I don't know where my mom or my dad, they found a disc or something for it installed it on my computer and I just started messing around. It's like, this is way better than Microsoft Paint. And experimenting here and there myself, and then I decided, hey, maybe I want to do this in school, and then I learned in college and stuff like that. And I didn't want to do that for my career, and then I made the stupid decision to be a lawyer. But I still do this on the side. I still have fun with this whenever I just I'm tired of Rocket League. I'm just to sit down and mess around with visuals. And I've been wanting to change our logo for the longest time, and finally designed something new. I got the stamp of approval from Andrew and Charles, and here's the new logo, our new color scheme, and we're going to move forward with it starting next week. And to the people of Adobe, thank you for what you do. It's been invaluable. It really has. If you want to learn, you get this, man. This is it. This is all you need. InDesign, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, and you need get the right computer for this, man. Just get something that can work. All right, because once you start, and of course you can get the tablets and stuff like that, and people can make freaking just art, just straight art from all of this. Adobe, man. Promo code creativity. Okay.
Nice. My non-sponsor, it's pretty quick. It is Tootsie Pops.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
I have lollipops quite a bit to kind of satiate my hunger, and I've mostly been relying recently on blow pops, which I love blow pops. They're awesome, but sometimes you just kind of get tired of the flavor, the bubble gum aspect to it. So where do I go when I need my lollipop fix and I'm a little bit tired of blow pops? I go with Tootsie Pops.
Yes.
They're yummy, they're delicious, they're cherry and their grape are my personal favorites. Orange isn't half bad. And that's really all I have to say. And if I remember correctly, I think it takes 630 something licks to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop, but you can find that information online.
Kinky.
Indeed. Promo code Counting Owl.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Owl.
And now to our actual sponsors.
Okay. All right. So I'll edit that so that's nice and smooth, and nobody hears this part right here when I put this on our podcast platforms, which we are on 9 of, by the way, because the widest of nets. We will take. I mean, if Alex Rodriguez, if what Jeremy says ever came true, if Alex Rodriguez listened to this show and is like, look at these pieces of crap talking about me being a sociopath, oh man, would that be a boon for us?
Yes, it would.
Oh man, we could talk about how he is not a true Yankee after all these years.
You remember the whole stepchild thing I was equating to Mattingly?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it goes a day around like, we have to tolerate you, but you're not even a half brother.
Right.
I mean, you was there for a long time. I have to have that eternal debate. Join us on our new social media platform, the Sports Goofs OnlyFans, to hear us go further. That's the next step. Because I'm going to give a shout out to Francisco, aside from the logo. Guys, he literally does everything social media wise, and then Andrew does. I contribute to nothing. It is pulling teeth. Like Francisco,
the least we could do is make you do the OnlyFans portion.
Yeah, well, there ain't no glib in my jib, pal. I do what I gotta do. But like, they have to pull my teeth to be like, hey, can you just retweet a tweet? Because I just keep it very, private with the social media. It's not that I'm against social media. I don't think the government's tracking me. The government's been tracking me since the Patriot Act, guys.
If you look at Charles's follows, it's like wrestlers and video games. That's
and it will be Jeremy. Speaking of which, follow us on Twitter. Dep Frijoles, FJOJR, Charles the True, Swing and Fishes or Swing and the Mishes.
Swings and Mishes. There you go.
Swings and Mishes. Jeremy's on it. And then BU and Freddie, their social media handles, because they are also part of the team too. Because they're part of the what? Goof World Order. I got it in.
I got it in. That logo, by the way.
Yeah, so that's a shout out to you. I forgot what I was going on here, but every now and then people like praise because it's Tuesday and we praise the sun, we praise tacos, and we praise, Sports Goofs.
All right, let's go into college football, okay? Because we have some stuff that happened, stuff that went down.
Mega stuff.
Okay, let's get our teams out of the way just to start out, and then we'll head on over to top 25 because there's some really fun games that happened. FIU virus, okay.
By the way, Francisco, I sent college football Fred rank over to the chat.
Ooh, I have to look for that. But FAU victory over Western Kentucky. Florida State is in a very dark hole, and we will not mention them at all from here on out. UCF
was on a bye.
Yep. And the Miami Hurricanes just hang on and defeat NC State.
And I gotta get Freddie's take on this, because here's the thing. If Clemson doesn't have Lawrence for another game and they lose, BS game, by the way, but if they lose, then do we get ACC title match? Possibly. I don't know how they
he
would
thinks he thinks it's going to be an ACC title match anyway.
I can live with that. Because I think Notre Dame gets the access in from what we've all talked about, right? For the ACC title. And then
they always have access in, even when they're not in the ACC.
But you never really seen them. You know what I mean? What I'm talking about. I think it's just this year, if I'm not mistaken, because I think this was a continuation of my miseducation from last year. But the point being,
they got in, I think, like a year or two ago to the top four.
Oh no, I'm not saying about the college, but just because remember, we're not going to, the U is not going to get into the actual college football playoffs. So right now, it's just kind of like, can we get into the ACC title game? Mm-hmm. That's all I care about. Sometimes you guys really, it's like the idea you have to be happy that you get your toys at the Dollar Tree instead of Toys R Us. Sorry, kids, Toys R Us is a great store. You might not remember it. That's where I'm at right now. But yeah, De'Ara King, he's doing work. That's all I can say on that.
All right, so I've got the Fred rank up here right now. So here we go. He's got Bama at number 1. Of course, they are number 1 now.
Trash.
Ohio State, Wisconsin, his Fighting Irish, who also won in an epic game against Clemson. We will talk about that. And they moved on below Notre Dame, Cincinnati, Oregon, Georgia, despite the fact they lost to Florida, Indiana, those damn dirty Gators, Northwestern, Texas A&M, boo Jimbo, Oklahoma State, BYU, Marshall, Miami, Texas, Oklahoma, USC, Iowa State, Auburn, and Boise State to round it out. And Appalachian State, Utah, and SMU. Didn't see those at the end. Sorry. So, top 25 games, guys. Boise State lost to BYU, 51-17. A thorough spanking by the Cougars. But that Clemson Notre Dame game, did you guys see it?
I did.
Oh, highlights.
Opinions.
Well, I tuned in for a bit. It was honestly, I had turned it off for a little bit because I thought, there was no way. I forget which team. I think it was Clemson. I thought there was no way that Clemson was going to be able to come back from this, or maybe it was Notre Dame. But I turned it back on, and sure enough, they were tied. And Freddie has admitted to me that he thinks that if Trevor Lawrence is back for a rematch, there's no chance in hell that Notre Dame wins. I'm inclined to agree. I mean,
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a friend of mine. I asked him, what is the recipe for the most chaos? And he said it would be a close Notre Dame victory. And he said that in the middle of regulation, so his prophecy came true. Personally, I would have preferred that Notre Dame lost, just because it would have given a better chance of Cincinnati getting higher up in the ranks.
Yeah.
But I will say that Notre Dame or Cincinnati is starting to understand our grief from 2017 and 2018. We're very much, I mean, we feel for them. We understand where they're coming from. We've been there twice. But we're basically saying, welcome to the club. We have refreshments.
If you want to learn how to claim a national championship, these are the steps. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's unfortunate. I think it's total BS how it goes. But it is just how it is in this current system. So
he's mentioning here that UCF is favored over Cincinnati according to ESPN.
Which I am surprised by. I'm very surprised by this, because our defense has been picked apart twice this season. And really all it takes for the offense to break down is for even a semi-competent defensive line to put any sort of pressure on Dylan Gabriel. So Cincinnati is, I'm surprised by that. A 60% margin, that's surprising. If anything, I would have expected like a 50.0001.
Yeah. I mean, they beat you guys last season, right? So.
Yes.
So. That seems like a surprise to me, just given the track record of what happened last year, and of course how both teams are playing this year. But
right,
there's some X factor that I'm not seeing. Of course, I'm no expert in football. All right, I don't have 25 fantasy teams, but I'm just going by what I see. So as a dirty casual,
right. Yeah, I don't know. And I just don't know how we pull out that victory, or who knows, we might. Defense played pretty well last week against Houston. Strangely enough, the loss of 4 defensive starters actually kicked things into high gear. Maybe just shaking things up a little bit kind of helped. I don't know. But we'll see. We have I never want to call any game easy, because having lived through 2015, we lost to freaking Furman. So no game. I don't take any game for granted anymore, which sucks. I've lost that peace of mind. But we have an easier game against Temple coming up.
Yeah.
We beat them last year, and according to a friend of mine, they are very depleted on their roster. They're barely at 2 deep, which, if you guys don't know, 2 deep is basically a fancy way of saying the starters and then a backup behind them. Because, on offense and defense, you have 11 players. So that's 22 players. You back that up, you've got 44 players. So I think I read they have like 50 players. So that's going to be a lot of tired players, because you don't get to substitute in as much. Why are the base runners fighting the fielders?
It's MLB Slugfest, dude. This is one of the greatest games of that generation. The Dreamcast, PS2, Xbox, GameCube era. Oh boy. This is stuff that's missing. This is the stuff that's missing in sports video games this coming generation, all right? I would buy an Xbox Series X or whatever if these types of games were still being released, you know?
I love how the phrasing of that. Why are the base runners fighting the fielders? What is this game?
Makes us feel old, because I remember this was the shiznit to get stuff, when the PS2 era, and that NFL Blitz.
Yes. NFL Blitz, NHL Hits, and this game, MLB Slugfest. And I guess NBA Jam is kind of the NBA version of this. It's like backyard
baseball for adults. Kinda, except with more fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I'll give a quick preview of the week of college football.
I wanted to mention one thing here.
Go ahead.
Michigan lost to Indiana.
Yes.
Again.
Is Harbaugh a good coach?
No.
I feel like people tell me it's like is he a good coach, or did he used to be a good coach and it's over now, or does he need to step back for a bit or go back to the NFL, like he's done here. He's done with the kids. It's like, why do people keep giving Michigan chances? It's like giving Tennessee a chance,
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really say whether he's good or not, and whether he's just flopping, and he's a failed coach. I don't know.
I mean, can he just just play out the Michigan year and then wait for the Jets to draft Trevor Lawrence and then take the Jets job? I don't know.
I mean, boys, may I interject on John Harbaugh?
Sure.
Jim. John is the Baltimore one.
That's right. Obviously, there's only one who has a Super Bowl ring and has success. Just saying. So about Jim Harbaugh, trash. Because you don't win the rivalry games. I think you're 1-9 now in your 4 years. Yeah, I agree with Freddie on that one. But you don't show up. You lost to Michigan State last week. You lost to Indiana. You're going to lose to Ohio State if you guys ever play against each other, if they haven't already played.
They play at the end of the season.
Yeah, well, guess what's going to happen? It's not a prediction, it's a spoiler, folks. And the problem is that this is what happens when ADs and boosters settle on rivalry games and stay on the bread and butter, because he's been extended out for 2 years too long on the basis of but he'll get a chance, and all he's got to do is beat Ohio State, and I don't know how a Michigan person sounds, so I'm just doing my typical Texas Longhorn thing, because every year is the Texas Longhorns year. So just put that with a Michigan accent, or they're just what the heck, Finger Lakes? I just remember the Jim Terry thing from The Office, Finger Lakes for Michigan. Anyway, Ann Arbor, go them Wolverines. You're not doing anything. You couldn't do anything with Shea Patterson. I think Denard Robinson, or whatever, the shoelace kid. I forget his name.
Because that's not a Michiganer.
Well, I haven't met them, so I don't even think they're real people. Just saying, they're non-existent. It's imaginary. BU's I'm from Michigan. But yeah, so it's just you're not there concretely. You don't really. Does he even? Would you say that he even? Does he recruit well? Because I almost said scout and drafting, something NFL terms, but recruiting wise, there's never been anybody who's really been the big contender. Jabril Peppers was the only one, and I believe he went to Michigan, and he didn't really do any. He hasn't done anything in the pro level. Not that it translates into it, but aside from that, you haven't had that major offensive player. You have not had that major defensive player. I'm just thinking Canadians, at least those must be that's true. So that's just my thought process with it from watching those games, watching the hype, watching everything. He was good in Stanford. Why was he good in Stanford? Guess who he had? Andrew Luck, the guy who's smart enough to get the hell out of the game because the game's not going to protect his neck, but an excellent quarterback at that time. So it just leads to believe that I don't think the talent's there. He'll get another opportunity. He'll probably go to the NFL. Why not? Because in the NFL, you can get a 10-year contract with the right ownership for $100 million, mostly guaranteed. Looking at you, Gruden. So there's going to be that desperate team. And what did the Jets want, Jim? Right? Wouldn't they like that idea of it? The guy who came in that first year, did some stuff, second year, went to the Super Bowl. He has a whole bunch of clout to him as a pro guy. His final year was 8-8 in the pros. That's great. There were guys who were going around 4-12 there. So Hugh Jackson was able to go wingless and still have his job that next year. Fellas, I can't lie about this. So trash is my overall thought process.
Speaking of, I just want to mention, guys, we might have to start covering other college sports because, they got college basketball preseason rankings that came out. College hockey came out.
Gonzaga's number one, right, for basketball?
I think so. North Dakota's number one for hockey, for D1 hockey right now.
BU would probably know.
Yeah, from what I last saw about it. I'm trying to get back now that there's no baseball and stuff in the offseason and get back into NHL, NBA. Training camp might start in 3 weeks, and I still don't know what the NHL is going to do with regards to that, and I'd like to kind of see what happens with the NHL. But that's an aside there. Anyways, so that was, we talked about, and okay, Andrew, you can give your preview as to what we're looking forward to next week.
North Dakota is the preseason number one for men's hockey. Not surprised. Despite being the Michigan of college hockey. Well, hey, at least Nodak has won a championship more recently than Michigan, but I digress. So just a quick look at some of the big games this week in college football. Shula Bowl 19 is on Friday. 7 o'clock on CBS-SN, CBS Sports Network. It's going to be played down here in Miami at Ricardo Silva Stadium. FAU, I don't know the odds, but they are probably favored to win.
Watch that game. They're letting the people in.
What's that?
Are they going to let people in to see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Not that I'm going, but I'm just asking.
Personally, I wouldn't recommend going just because of COVID, but you do you. Some big games. Miami is ranked number 9 in the AP. They are going to Lane Stadium out in Blacksburg, Virginia to play the Hokies of Virginia Tech. Here's a big one. Indiana. This is the first time they've been ranked in the top 10 since the mid-'80s. They're ranked 10th. They're heading over to East Lansing, Michigan to play the Michigan State Spartans. Let's see other big games. UCF is playing at home against Temple Saturday night. Starting at 7:30, coincidentally enough, SpaceX is launching a rocket about 19 minutes after the slated start time.
Okay.
So, barring it being scrubbed, you will be able to see I keep wanting to say shuttle but it's not.
A rocket.
A spacecraft launch sometime in the middle of the first quarter. Nice. Because, believe it or not, and this is totally intentional, the 50-yard line of the bounce house is on the exact same longitudinal line as Launchpad 39A over at Kennedy Space Center. Okay. So you see the launches coming up over the east side stands, which is really awesome, and it's really cool looking to see, especially at night. So that covers our teams, and then we have a whole host of cancellations this week. Number 1 Alabama at LSU has been postponed. Number 5 Texas A&M at Tennessee postponed. Number 24 Auburn at Mississippi State is postponed, and Memphis at Navy is postponed. So 3 top 25 teams, including 2 top 5 teams, have had games postponed, and that is big news because 3 of those games are SEC conference games. and the SEC is projected to have at least one team in the college football playoff. So we will see how that plays out, because assuming, unless they're able to somehow play those games, that's one lack of a game that hurts their resume.
Yeah. Okay.
So we shall see.
All right, so let's move on. We'll do NFL. How is everyone's fantasy teams doing this week?
I'm on a 3-game winning streak.
Well then.
And by the way, Fred Rank is NFL Fred Rank is over in the chat.
And there it is. See, I was working in the background. There you go. All right.
Yeah, I won by I think like 80 points, so it was a pretty good week.
Every week, Charles's size and stuff. I don't know. It fuels me for some reason.
Freddie is 133 and 92 on the season.
I'm trapped
at
Trujillo
this
for
week,
a reason,
Charles?
boys.
What went
My
wrong?
running backs, man. My running backs screwed it up. And you know what else happened? Kyler Murray he must be a pedophile because he only likes to throw the balls to little boys like Christian Kirk.
Oh my
real
God,
men
Charles.
like Doug Hopkins. Listen. He got like 5 points.
I'm not editing that one out, by the way.
No, what happened here? This is Hopkins here, man. No, DeAndre Hopkins, the guy who went through every single irrelevant quarterback in Houston, and Kyler Murray wants to give it Christian Kirk. Kyler Murray wants to give it Larry. So, I love Larry, but still, my running backs didn't do anything. I lost both my games. It's more or less that they kind of pooped the bed because Derrick Henry only got 11 points on one league. I don't care too much about the non-money league. That's always just fun. But with the money league, it's going to be easier. It's like an 8-man league, so it's not that hard. I'm still in contention for the playoffs, going 4-5. I don't like it, but Todd Gurley got a basic touchdown, 11 points, but then Montgomery. Here's the thing about drafting running backs, Francisco. You draft and get the guys and start them in volume and how much touches they're going to get. So Montgomery is the clear-cut lead back. And now he's been going. He was 12, 13 points a game. I could work with it, and then it was just 5. That was sad. Deshaun Watson, I love you. Keenan Allen, I love you. Y'all are men. You're honorary part members of the Goof Forward Order. You have yet to fail me. I had to start Justin Jefferson because Chris Godwin, I was I don't know if he's going to go or not. But it turned out Chris Godwin can't do anything because Tom Brady is overrated trash. Big time trash overrated. That Bucs team is overrated. And yet I drafted Chris Godwin. So I'm just butthurt. Because here's the thing. I don't care. I don't like how I feel Sundays at 3 p.m. I get angry. I get frustrated. I feel like I'm owning these people who don't even know I existed. These are the guys who are thinking.
You feel why am I paying you guys?
Yeah, they're like, these guys are like, how is it that you survived and the other sperm didn't get to, inseminate the egg? You of all people, this fan who, is trash at Trujillo. So I'm just a little frustrated to it. But you know what? Upside, 5 more weeks and I don't have to deal with it, assuming I don't get the playoffs. If I get the playoffs, then that's terrible. And here's the worst thing about it. I was going against my paralegal, and he is the leader. He's 7-2 now. So we have a running joke because I have nicknames in my program for that are wrestling components. So I call myself the tribal chief out of Roman Reigns' thing for wrestling because, all things relate to wrestling. So he's like, you're not the chief. I'm the chief now. And it hurt my pride.
Oh, boy.
Screw you, Kyler Murray. You're a great player.
Thank you, Kyler Murray, because the Miami Dolphins won. We are 5-3. It's we haven't been 5-3 since 2014. My God, man. Guys, it's happening, man. I'm turning. I'm turning.
I'm going to make a redaction. He's not trash. He's not too a trash. From that game alone.
I'm turning, guys. This pessimistic Dolphins fan might actually have hope, which is very dangerous, by the way, for an NFL fan. Just oh man, it hurts, man. The 2000 Grinch movie. When he started to get those first heartbeats and it just hurt. It was like having a heart attack. That's how I feel with the Dolphins, man. I'm like, oh my God. I texted Doug a Dolphins gif. That was very happy. Oh, man.
You're the SpongeBob meme where he's like, let's go!
I just feel gross, man. I feel like Squidward when he first ate a Krabby Patty and just went nuts from there. Watch. Well, if I become a positive Dolphins fan, ooh, dear Lord, I might actually be insufferable.
But there's a possibility.
That's what scares me, man. That's what's the Dolphins haven't been in my lifetime since I've been a Dolphins fan, man. It's just 20 years of just what is happening, like slowly chipping away at my soul, and finally making me like football fourth amongst these sports. And now, in this year of all years, the Marlins make the playoffs, the Heat make it to the finals, the Florida Panthers are still the same, and the Dolphins are good. The defense is really good. Brian Flores has established a culture. What is happening? Ooh. But there's always one tried and true thing that gives me my jollies, and it's the New York Jets and their glorious tank. Winning against the New England Patriots, looking like they'd get their first victory. Everybody's been beating the Patriots. But somebody, a collective group of New York Jets coaches and staff and players realized that they needed to keep their eye on the prize. That tank was falling apart at the seams, and they built that thing back up, and they made sure that it could trudge along and continue its battle. What a tank, man. What a great tank job. Just, you know, the suspense, all right? One of the worst Monday Night Football games to ever be scheduled in a long while. We thought Thursday Night Football games were awful. This was, man, who gave the New York Jets a Monday Night Football game? Seriously, who at ESPN, all right? Who at ESPN and the NFL offices thought, the New York Jets deserve a Monday Night Football game? Why? Why was that done? Okay? Aside from looking at such a glorious tank, because that's always fun to watch. But why was that? Oh, man. Adam Gase, you are one of the luckiest people in this world. I wish I could be paid to suck. I really do. Doesn't that seem like a dream job?
It is.
Right? You get paid to suck. That's better than getting paid just to be there. Getting paid to just be there, you just do nothing. Getting paid to suck? Man. It must be really fun to try to suck. Right? You imagine, well, I wouldn't do it at Charles's day job, nor at my day job, because we deal with people's lives. But I'm talking about, like, I don't know. I guess, yeah, sports is probably the only one where it really, like, people will move on, you know. You're not going to affect too many lives aside from your players and such like that. But sports is probably, like, the only one where you can really try to suck. I mean, there have been years where teams literally try to suck, and that must be really fun. If, you know, me and Charles, we talked about running a sports team or wrestling, whatever, last week.
Yes.
I would love to have one chance to be like, okay, you have one job. Make this team suck as much as possible. Ooh.
I mean, essentially, there's been plenty of GMs or coaches that have already kind of done that. I mean, what's his face over in Philly?
Oh.
Yeah, I forget the name because, you know, what happens is when you're gone for a while, I forget your name. Go into it. Trust the process. What's his name? It's going to bother me. Because once you're fine, yeah, Sam Hinkie. Because here's the thing about Sam Hinkie: you're not coming back, dude. You're not going to get another job ever again. I think you'll get an analytics position, but you're not going to get that high of a position, I would venture.
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing. That's essentially what he did. He says, trade away everybody's talent, start people that you don't know, get a fall guy coach, tell people to trust the process, and then have the process not work in of itself, and then, you know, sit back and profit. It's like the little South Park meme.
It feels, man, it seems like it would be really fun. I'm sure people, I mean, you see it on SB Nation. I think Andrew, I think like Dorktown and those things like that John Boyce does, where they intentionally like mess with sports video games. Right. They do that. But man, I'd love to just one season where I could just kind of get in there and really mess up a team. Like if I could tear down the Atlanta Braves, holy crap. Oh man, would I make them suck. I would go after that New York Mets record. the 1962 Mets. I would really gun for it. I'm like, this is happening, folks.
See, you have to pick a team that's excellent because the crowd reaction that's tears. The Boston Red Sox essentially did it this year. We're trading away Mookie Betts. Dave Price got to go. All these people have to go, and we're just going to rely on Xander Bogaerts. Let's do it.
Any other games that stuck out to you guys from the NFL last week?
I watched. What did I watch? I think that's a good question.
Bills getting that victory over Seahawks.
Colts Baltimore was our Baltimore Ravens and the Indianapolis Colts was good just because of how that Baltimore defense turned around. Apparently, up until the end of the game, there was only like 4 plays that Indy was able to do, and that's some impressive stuff for a defensive standpoint. I still think that Lamar Jackson's just a stat stuffer at this point. I really don't know who your MVP is either, and I know we might be a little premature, but I like me some Russ. I love me some Russ. He's my other guy in fantasy football. But those 3 picks, isn't helping. And if you're doing MVP, it's for the guys who are really like pristine that are coming into it. Because here's the thing. I want to ask this question, and Freddie can jump on this too, or anybody who wants to. Is it time we consider Dalvin Cook to be MVP runner? The team might finish 6-10. But
there are Packers fans that are like, Packers fans hate Minnesota, but like there's people are like, man, how can you like not like this guy? Seriously, he's the best back in the league. He's the best. I mean, go Knowles. Right? He's the one shining thing that we've got so far. Even though Jameis actually came into that Bucs game against the Saints. That was fun.
Because if it's not him, then you have to go to the most undeserving MVP based off of stats and team wins at the very end, even though the fact that they're playing easy teams, and that's Aaron Rodgers. Because I think Russ is going to lose that steam. A couple more losses, it just disappears. And I'd rather have Dalvin Cook and their 6-10 Vikings because he's probably going to come close to the rushing yards.
I don't have that much of a knowledge as to NFL writers and how they go about things with regards to voting for stuff. I can kind of gauge hockey and baseball and even basketball with who they're going to vote for certain awards at the end of the day. I feel like NFL writers, from what I've been able to follow and see, I feel like they just kind of go to what we think is going to happen. So I feel like if things go the way they are for the Packers, they win their division, they make the playoffs, and Aaron Rodgers has those, I feel like they would vote Rodgers over Dalvin. He's on a losing team, this and that. So
the last running back to get the MVP was Adrian Peterson.
Freddie's got them finishing with a winning record but not making the playoffs. It depends on the milestones that he hits during the season. Like if he's hitting running back records of some sort, then I could see some maybe, but I find it hard from what I know of NFL writers. From what I know. Okay.
Boo. Boo.
Yeah,
that's all I say.
Let's see. Yep, Saints destroyed the Bucs. Battle of the Geriatrics. Steelers still undefeated. First time they've ever started 8-0, which is surprising given the history of the franchise. Let's see. What else happened? Your Titans beat the Bears, who are falling back down to earth as well. So, your boy Brown with a touchdown 5 straight games. Okay. All right. Anything from the NFL that sticks out for you guys aside from that? We can move on.
I'm going to give one because it just came in that they're going to give additional draft picks for any team that hires a minority coach. That's going to be very unpopular amongst a lot of people. And it's not the position that anybody of different race, creative, necessarily should get a chance. They all should. But I think part of that issue comes from the fact that the people who are successful that you want to hire, a lot of teams aren't going to wait for them because they tend to be on playoff teams. That's what the Eric Bieniemy issue is. When you're in Kansas City constantly winning all the time, what you going to do, right? On top of other stuff. And I don't know how I feel about it. I do believe that you have, and this is just my opinion, you do have some coaches or ownerships who they don't even like kind of getting young players, so they kind of want to get their old antiquated guys. I mean, Jay Gruden's been around. They go from there, so you might not get guys who are new. You might get guys who get shuffled down because of experience. But if you're adding in picks, that might cause some controversy. Because here's the thing, too, is that it's at the discretion of ownership, and I don't think it's a racial motivation, even though I love the conspiracies. But what's this going to do if no one really hires anybody? It wasn't last year the NFL. Now I'm thinking NBA. That was the most fired, African American coaches, and then you get Steve Nash, who has never had a day on the job. But that's in the NBA. But for the NFL, there's going to be some. There's already been 2 firings. There's a third one that's presumably going to happen with Gase, and a few. I still think Mike Zimmer might get fired. But draft picks, because you have to think about this in the long run. It's a draft pick. You don't know what you're getting as a draft pick. Is it a compensatory draft pick? Is it just an additional supplemental pick if they bring back the supplemental draft, which is irrelevant, and I don't understand it anyway? What's the incentive that you're kind of going from there? I don't know. Maybe if the issue was you have these great coaches, coordinators who have an opportunity to interview elsewhere if they're on the teams. And mind you, I'm only just going on people that are on successful teams because, no, even though Hugh Jackson, is an African-American coach, the guy was a terrible coach. So maybe you want to give Eric Bieniemy that opportunity more so, but then wait him out. But the thing is, you get some impatient teams, and how are you gonna find any kind of racial motivation? Because isn't that what they're trying to really hit at, or they're just saying that it's not the opportunity that we're seeking for?
Yeah.
And also, what's your definition of what a minority coach might be, right? And I know what it means, but I think you guys get what I'm saying on their criteria. I'm just trying to figure out because it's going to be controversial. I think some people don't want to touch upon it because they might think it's racist. I don't think it's racist. I just think that if some managements wanted to wait out to actually interview people, instead the successful guys, the successful coordinators are going to miss out because of the fact that they can't skip the interviews. A lot of them don't. Some do, some don't. It's just curious. And what kind of draft compensation? Because here's the thing. For those who say, oh, that's wrong, you shouldn't have rewarded for hiring people incentive. If it's just 7th round picks, man, that's nothing. Why does that matter? It's not like they're going to get as high as a 3rd. So I just want to hear what you guys thought about it.
I mean, this is news to me that I didn't. So now
it literally broke like 20 minutes ago, and as I saw it, so a lot of it's just, natural reaction.
I think because I don't know, the Dolphins have Brian Flores.
Yeah, and he's great.
He's technically Honduran. Family, so people, thus the last name Flores, he's been a great hire because he was a great hire, not because he was a minority. The Dolphins did their due diligence and hired the best man for the job, and that's kind of, I guess, to me, the definition of equality right there, where it really is truly based on merit. Now, I can see some sort of benefit to it for the NFL because, we all know about the coaching / managing carousel. I mean, frickin' Tony La Russa's got hired by the frickin' White Sox. But we know the retreads. We know how many retreads there are in all of these sports, man. The NHL has the coaching carousel. Man, is the NHL have a coaching carousel. Is Daryl Sutter coaching anybody, Andrew? I don't even remember, man. He was the coach of the Kings, and I don't even know.
So real quick, I do have the numbers of what they give, their draft picks. So let's see. I believe they say finalize a 10-month discussion aimed at boosting the likelihood the teams will seek out, consider higher minority coaching and executive candidates. They approved a resolution to reward teams draft picks if one of their minority coaches or personnel people is hired to be a head coach or general manager. So it's kind of like, hey, maybe inward promotion going from there. I know they had talked about ultimately saying blah, blah, blah. Moving forward, teams will receive 2 third-round compensatory draft picks if someone from their organization is hired or promoted to a head coaching or general manager. So really looking at that then, it's not really – it's the incentive is the organization hires those people and those depart into a different job. I think on the news break from Twitter, because it's Twitter, the worst place for information, was making it seem as if, follow us on Twitter, guys, was making it seem like, oh, you hired this guy, you're going to get this. But I think, right, that's a boot. I think a third-round pick is still kind of too high, but I don't know. I think I'm a little bit more at peace with that than anything. And sorry to interrupt you, but I had to look deeper into it to see what it was.
Yeah.
What.
No, that's fine. But that's my initial thing. I mean, I haven't read it. I haven't seen anything. I'm sure there's gonna plenty of people are gonna overreact to it because it is sports. So, and that's it. But whatever. I mean, it's nothing that it doesn't bother me, to be honest. If they want to do it, go ahead and do it.
Yeah. You know? I mean, where's the harm into it? You know, I don't see what the big issue is. I guess I can hear the arguments towards it, but as long as everybody gets a fair chance to interview is my whole basis of it. You know, I'm just saying, hey, you know, if you want to hire the right guy, hire the right guy. Don't hire it because the fan base pressures you to hire a guy immediately, as another successful guy like Eric Bieniemy is winning Super Bowls. He might get another one this year, guys. It's a shame that he doesn't get a chance to interview and get hired. Same way how Mike Zimmer did a couple of years ago, had to wait his turn when everybody was touting him when he's with defensive coordinator for the Bengals.
Yeah. Okay. I just want one last of my song segments that I didn't get out of the way, and I'll make the graphic for this when we do our redesign. So I'll just put it on the search screen here. It's Uncultured Swine, the newest segment that I've made. All right. I want to give a nice toss up to Freddie there. We got a CFL team today. Okay. Is Andrew still on the line? I don't even hear him.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure that you're still there, dude. Anyways, we got a CFL team.
So,
I went with the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Nice.
Because I kind of like the name Tiger Cat. It's kind of redundant, but still. The Hamilton
It's
Tiger
not just
Cats.
any kind of cat. It's a Hamilton Tiger Cat.
So the Hamilton Tiger Cats, the Tie Cats, whatever you want to call them, established in 1950, even though you can go back to the 1800s for the history of football in Hamilton. Either way, we're going to put 1950. Of course, they play in the CFL, the Canadian Football League. They have 8 Grey Cups. Their last one was back in 1999, even though they've made a few appearances. Last season, 2019, they made a Grey Cup appearance. Funny thing is, there is a reason for the redundant name, though personally Flying Tigers would have worked better for the merged names. Okay. I see. So, their logo used to be, or they have a modern update to their logo, but their previous logo, and I guess I can go on sportslogos.net to show you, Princeton copied their logo. It straight up copied it, or they got permission from Hamilton to use the logo. Hamilton said they made the logo. It was a Canadian dude that made the Tiger Cats logo, the leaping tiger there. So I just want to show you what I am talking about. Where is the Canadian Football League? There we go. So Hamilton Tiger Cats. This was their retro logo here, as you can see. Very retro, incredibly retro there, and I'll show you what I'm talking about with regards to Princeton. Let's go to colleges. Head on over to Princeton right now. I like their current logo, by the way, with the P with the tiger stripes. And there it is. They just did a flipped version of the Hamilton Tiger Cats logo. So there you go with regards to that. But the Tiger Cats, I couldn't find in the time that I was prepping this any notable alumni of theirs that played in like the NFL or anything like that. So I don't have that list. However, they do play at the most Canadian of names for a stadium, Tim Hortons Field. So everything in Canada is either named after Scotiabank, Rogers, or Tim Hortons. So that is truly the most Canadian of names. And they are set to host the Grey Cup next year. So that's all I got for this Uncultured Swine. We're getting pressed for time. Let's head on over to the cage.
Whew. Tell me when I'm ready. Goose.
Oh, you.
All right. Welcome everybody to your weekly Truplex The Cage with Charles. Full disclaimer, wrestling is not fake. It is scripted. It is a song. It is a dance. It is a ballet. It is bloodbaths and mayhem and hatred and people putting their bodies on online for my entertainment as I just eat Cheetos and put my finger in my belly button. It's a story about men and women chasing championships, men and women dealing with some blood feuds, men and women just doing comedy acts for comedy routines. Now, I think I can kind of keep it pretty brief this week because right now we're in the final build of Survivor Series. I will tell you, Major League Wrestling's coming back, MLW. They're announcing a few things. New Japan, we got things to talk about, but we're kind of going to focus a little bit on AEW today because for the first time in a long time, I don't have to really talk about Vince McMahon that much. So let's get Vince McMahon out of the way. Raw, SmackDown, Survivor Series coming in next week's go-home shows. As you know, brand promotion, even though it makes no sense to me because you're having people from Raw and SmackDown wrestling against each other since the COVID happened. But, it's about brand supremacy. How can you say you have brand supremacy? You're not including NXT this year.
Hold on, Charles. You sound very far away right now for some reason.
Can you hear me now?
Now you're better.
There we go. Probably because I stood up for a second in exclamation. But how can you say it's brand supremacy when you're not including NXT this year, given the fact that you had NXT last year? Oh, that's right. That was a ploy to get people to watch it over AEW on Wednesday nights because we have the Wednesday Night Wars. It's a small war, not a big war. Typically, with the Survivor Series, you'll have champions going against each other, no title defenses. Some highlights is going to be Sasha versus Asuka, each respectively representing the women's tag team division. Or, I'm sorry, not tag team division, singles titles divisions. So only one tag team championship for the women's. They won't defend it there. Men's tag teams going against each other. Street Profits and the New Day for now. There is a title match that will happen next week on Raw, where it's the New Day versus the Hurt Business. And that's where you might get a little screwy results, and the Hurt Business will end up getting the Raw Tag Team Championships. That kind of fits into the mold because now you have a heel versus a face. But this is one of those times where we can get some original stuff. Now, recently in the last couple of years, we've had good Survivor Series matches. Brock Lesnar, AJ Styles, Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Bryan, the champion versus champion stuff. A couple of years back, when Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt were still a thing as a group of the Wyatt family, they had an excellent all-men Survivor Series matchup, just to name some examples. But then you get some snoozers. Some of the storylines are building into Raw and SmackDown is getting the final members of their Survivor Series team. So this week, the final fifth member was Matt Riddle, who now goes by Riddle because Vince doesn't want people to Google Matt Riddle and find out that he was accused in the accusations about sexually assaulting somebody. Whether or not those are true, I'm not here for that. I'm just here to kind of tell you Vince changes names for the weirdest things because at the end of the day, you putting Riddle WWE in a Google search engine is not going to stop the past lawsuit allegations from coming up. Some storylines are going on. Roman's continuing his descent of brainwashing Jey Uso into the dark side. They had a match on SmackDown, him versus Kevin Owens, Jey Uso versus Kevin Owens. Jey won. I love what they're doing with Jey. If they don't get The Rock to have Roman against them and don't worry, I see that All Elite Wrestling. We're going to talk about that. But if they don't get The Rock and Roman at WrestleMania, I wonder if they're going to pull the trigger and put that Universal Championship on Jey Uso and make it come full circle. We shall see. I question. I wonder. I think things. Do I know things? I predict things. I'm kind of right. I know Vince McMahon. But right now, WWE is a little bit of a ho-hum thing as they're trying to build new superstars, as they're trying to deal with the pandemic. They got to figure out where they're going for home because they were over in Amelia Arena. I believe that's where the Thunderdome was there. That's in Orlando, right, Andrew?
Yeah.
The Amalie Arena?
Yeah. No, that's Tampa.
That's in Tampa. Okay, so
what's
the
one? Amway Center.
Amway Center, thank you. Because I think there was talks about using one of the arenas that's non-season. Because right now I believe they use the Amway Center for the Thunderdome. But what happens is with the NBA restart that's coming around,
it would have made more sense at the Emily Arena.
That's what I'm saying.
Or that's what I'm saying. Field because it used to be called a Thunderdome.
Well, you need something that can house enough, right? But with the NBA about to restart, the Magic need it for their games. That's probably going to cross with the Monday, Wednesday, Friday components. And Vince doesn't necessarily want to put Raw and SmackDown back into Performance Center in Orlando, which they call Capital City Wrestling, Capital Wrestling City. But we all know it's really a Performance Center because it doesn't have that kind of big vibe sell that comes into it. So that's an issue he's got to figure out. They're talking about having a domed arena or some kind of stadium that they can utilize. Best of luck.
There's not that many to go with, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you have these smaller venues. You got I don't know if we can list them, Andrew, but I mean, you've got I mean, the big ones, American Airlines here, BB&T Center, Emily in Tampa, and Amway in Orlando. And you got the smaller stuff like the one in Jacksonville, and then but that's like AEW territory.
It is AEW territory.
And
so
then you've got, I guess, the Hertz Arena out where the Everblades play. I mean, that's like, that's like in Estero. I don't even know if they would even.
So,
yeah.
I have a resolution for this. It's very simple. Vince, drive down 2 hours to Martin County. Utilize my backyard, because all you need is like a 20 by 20. You don't even need that. It's really like
have you ever seen Workaholics?
Yeah. That's what kind of led to it a little bit. Everybody likes a little bit of that backyard wrestling. In fact, there was a Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. They did the Talk and Shop Mania, and they had like a little backyard brawl and their thing. It was stupid, but it was stupid funny. Just utilize it. You guys can use my bathroom. I'll have Cheetos. I'll cater. I don't care. Let me meet these cool superstars. They can do pros. Because would you want to watch that? It's so weird. But imagine Jey Uso talking about how he has to go to the dark side because his cousin Roman Thunder, and there's my dog Byron in the background having to go pee. I would pay to see that. That's good viewership. Fox, tell Fox right now, come to my neck of the woods. I won't disclose my address because I don't want fan mail yet. Come to my address, and I'll get your ratings up to 3 million. You're just only doing like 2.3 right now. Come on, those are rookie numbers. You gotta get those numbers up, man. You gotta get those numbers up. I'll watch Survivor Series. I typically watch the Big Four because I think it's one of those times where the storylines can kind of disappear when you just get some decent wrestling. I expect Asuka and Sasha to really knock it out of the park. I think the tag matches will be trash if it's New Day and the Street Profits, because they're both kind of like the comedy athletic kind of group. Even though I love me some Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. Also the Street Profits too. I remember when they were in the house shows before they get to the big time. Bobby Lashley and Sami Zayn will be kind of trash because it just doesn't work. I'm waiting to see what they're going to do for SmackDown. It's also going to be The Undertaker's final farewell, so he's probably going to make an appearance because it would be 30 years since he appeared. So I would personally like it if he was just SmackDown's fifth man and all he did was come in and just choke slam somebody. Just to be in a ring so I can see him ring. And there's some people who have said, well, it would be fair for live audience to see so he can send up guys. We don't know when live audience will come around. The numbers are spiking every day. Vince doesn't want to be the place where he's a sloppy shop where everybody gets contracted, or you don't want to go to that venue and say, yeah, I went to this, but I got, the CV. So it'll be interesting. Also, plus Taker has all but retired. They released new merchandise. They want me to spend my money. Ironically, I don't have an Undertaker shirt. I don't think I really need one, though. I think it's, it's pretty respectable of stuff. I just get cool shirts if they look good and I wear at the gym. So that's WWE. More on it next week. Couple things I got gripes on. Big gripes. I won't talk about Ring of Honor and all that stuff. New Japan, what the hell's going on with you? Why are you doing WWE booking? So you remember how Charles was right about Kota Ibushi winning the G1 Climax, which gets him an opportunity at Wrestle Kingdom, I believe January 4th and January 5th against, it's a 2-day event, against Tetsuya Naito for his IGWP Heavyweight and IGWP IC Championship. So you win it, you have the right to defend it, but presumably no one's really lost that briefcase. So it's his time, and I was like, okay, we're going to get Kota. Kota's going to win it. It's good storylines, and maybe he'll feud with a couple dudes. Remember all that, right? Power struggle happened over the weekend. Some of the other matches don't matter, except Shingo Takagi and Minoru Suzuki was fire. So there was a little game segment that I was going to talk about like cool or not cool with the name moves. I might say that for another day, but I'm going to use one thing. Shingo Takagi's finisher is called Last of the Dragon. It's cool looking, and I think it's just the coolest freaking name for a finisher because you can do some cool stuff there. So Minoru lost his never openweight heavyweight championship, or openweight because it's not technically heavyweight. Openweight meaning anybody can challenge it, but his never openweight championship to Shingo. Shingo was the predecessor who had it, and then I guess it's a back and forth. But Kota Ibushi versus Jay White. Jay White's not my guy, man. I'm trying to see why some people like him. I think he stagnated the Bullet Club in growing out the facial. And Jay White, if you hear me out, you're talented. You super are, dude. Like, there's nothing against it. Your whole concept of being the Switchblade is awesome and it's cool. I don't see it with how they portrayed you now. I think partially it's because it's the Bullet Club, because Bullet Club hasn't really been good for a long time since Kenny Omega left in AEW. More on that later. But so him and Kota go at Power Struggle, and the stipulation was that if Jay White wins, he gets the guaranteed title shot. And I just realized I picked a scab on my knee, you guys. I don't know how I got that. I guess from practicing my wrestling moves on the pillow. What's it on his words? Oh, okay, I'm re-abuse thing. But yeah, bringing it back. So him and Kota have a match. Jay White wins, and now he's the one that is going to go against Tetsuya Naito for his championships. Mind you, the problem with Jay White is Geto is the lead booker. Geto is also the manager for Jay White, so there's some nepotism there. But then this is where it gets even more dumb. So now it's been changed where Jay White is going to go against Tetsuya Naito. But however, Tetsuya Naito, who we love, he's head of Los Ingobernables de Japón, right? He's Destino. Love him. He basically looks like he came from a Persona video game with his personality, his attire. I love his entrance. I love how he comes into it. The guy's so cool. So anyway, Tetsuya's like, oh, hey, Wrestle Kingdom is too nice, right? Yeah. I feel like Kota deserves a title shot anyway, because when him and I wrestled at G1 for the G1 Climax briefcase, I lost to him, so I feel like he should get it. So even though Kota lost it, he's still going to get the title shot on the first night, and whoever wins that with the double champ belts will go against Jay White the next day. What are you doing? What are you doing? Are you basically going to say, hey, to crown Kota, we're going to make him look good by him beating Naito, because Naito's not going to have those titles. Gato doesn't like Naito. There's been bad booking. That's how Evil won the titles in the first place, and then came in with Naito getting it back. I don't think Naito will win. I'd be shocked and surprised because it never happens. I can't get what I want. You know, New Japan's becoming Vince McMahon land. But are you going to have Kota win in a very tough match against Naito, and then
You're far away from us again, Charles.
Oh, because I'm standing up again. I got so excited. But Jay White is the prodigy, so what are we coming of this? And that's what I just don't understand. Because if you're booking somebody, the art of booking is booking how they're going to win, what their presentations will be, the promos, and everything that happens after the fact, right? How are you going to say that this G1 Climax that you held a whole tournament on matters, to which you can lose it, and then you lose it but still give them the championship belt? I don't get it. Just do me a favor, have Naito drop the Intercontinental title, and then have Naito retain the Heavyweight Championship. Plain and simple, because that's the thing too. Two belts being held at the same time. We spoke about it last week with, is it Jeremy Grisham that won the Pure title. It makes no sense, but he was a tag team champion. But now we're talking about the biggest title in New Japan and the second biggest title. So it's kind of like devalued it because everybody's double champ now, and you can't necessarily merge it. Not a fan, boys. Not a fan. AEW, they had Full Gear this weekend. Mm-hmm. We had talked about it. Charles was not into it. Some of the builds, Charles was into. Some of the other builds. Some of the matches that they had that Charles was looking into was the Young Bucks versus FTR, formerly known as Revival, for the Tag Team Championships. Adam Hangman Page versus Kenny Omega in the finals of their tournament. And whoever won gets a number one contender shot against, or gets his number one contender, I guess, title shot against whoever was a champion between Moxley and Eddie Kingston. And then you had Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose, and a few other things that came into it. You had Cody versus Darby Allin for the TNT Championship. Charles watched a good portion of it. I didn't pay for it. YouTube is a beautiful thing. Sorry, Cody. Every week I tell you, follow us on Twitter. Maybe I'll pay the $50 for every. Cody, if right now, Cody Rhodes, if you follow us on Twitter with Sports Goofs, Charles the True, whatever, I will pay $50 each pay-per-view, hands down, and I will watch AEW over NXT all the time for a year. For a year. I can't go past that. Some of the matches were good. Some matches were a little bit underwhelming. Some matches were victims of bad booking. So Darby Allin is now your TNT Championship. We already know how I kind of felt about Cody retaining in the first place. Originally, Cody was the OG TNT Championship, and then Brody Lee demolishes him within 3 minutes. And instead of letting Brody and Darby have the proper story of David versus Goliath, because Brody Lee is huge, and you have Darby Allin, who's probably my height and thin, take down the Dark Order and Brody Lee to get that big, accomplishment. Cody ends up beating Brody on TNT in a dog collar match, and then beats Orange Cassidy, and then goes against Darby Allin just to lose to Darby Allin because him and Darby have history. It's bad booking. It doesn't look well to do it, and I don't think you gave me the vibes of I'm better than you kind of thing, or I'm got to be the star. But it kind of doesn't help you either. Yes, I know you want to say, hey, me losing is going to help put the new guy over, but, and this is a very big but does it really? Because you diminish Brody Lee's whole purpose, and you also kind of make you look like a weak secondary champion on your second title run because you only have one defense. So not a big fan of it. Match was fine. It wasn't bad. I liked it. Match that kind of disappointed me. Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, former tag team champions, teaming up. It was about 18 minutes. The match, I rate, if I'm gonna do my Meltzer rating, because Dave Meltzer, you're useless, but every time I hear you say, you're like, and how I inherited that in my own show and podcast. The match was really like a 3.75. The final 5 minutes was good, but it lacked the drama. These are two guys who were tag team champions for 220 something days. They're not coming in with any intensity. They're not beating each other. They're having kind of like a technical match. It's not like Seth versus Dean for the IC belts at TLC. That match was atrocious. This one, at least they were trying to one-up each other, and then Kenny almost, got snuck upon on when Hangman Page tried to do his own finisher called the One-Winged Angel. Reserve that for the game, guys. We're going to reserve that if it's cool or not cool. And then end up where he was able to reverse it, and Kenny got the pin, and Kenny won. So he's going against Moxley. Moxley and him had the first match at the pay-per-view. That was lights out, or basically their way of no holds barred, saying that the records don't matter anymore, blah, 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 records don't matter. Match could have been a little better. Young Bucks FTR, that was fun. That was fine. Young Bucks came in with the condition of if they lost, they would never get another title shot at it, just like the way Cody did, when saying, hey, if I lost the AEW championship match against Jericho, I would never challenge again. Well, guess what? What does that tell us? That the Young Bucks were going to win. But it was enjoyable. The whole concept where they were each other's antithesis of one another, because the revivals are no flips, just fists, and the Young Bucks are super kicks and flips all the day, every day. Enjoyable match. Shido versus Nyla Rose, take it what it is. They've really kind of devalued the AEW women's division, and it's probably because they don't have anybody to build on fully yet. They're really using NWA to propel with Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb and Allison Kay to kind of do some stuff in there, so that's a little bit of an adventure. Jericho versus MJF, give or take. I wasn't really excited for it because the whole thing was MJF was like, if I win, because they've had this little fun courting of one another, because MJF wants to join the Inner Circle. So if MJF won against Jericho in their match, he would join the Inner Circle, which is a stable consisting of Jericho, Jake Hager, Proud and Powerful, which is Ortiz and Santana, and then Sammy Guevara. MJF, I thought there was going to be a turn. I thought that they were going, somebody in there, which was Proud and Powerful, who I would have chosen, was going to betray Jericho and then help MJF win. I'll be his new stable. But instead, MJF rolls up the tights and gets in. So I know they're going to go for more of the whole like sleeper cell idea, where now he's going to break everything from within. But not crazy about it, partially because too many guys in the stable. I get it, but stables, as good as they are also as bad, especially if you have a lot of heel stables. Sammy Guevara versus Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy wins. They had an elite deletion match. Don't care. I'm still kind of pissy pants about how you let Matt Hardy continue after clearly getting knocked the hell out. Eddie Kingston versus Jon Moxley. Holy crap, man. That was good wrestling. It was an I Quit match. I sent you guys what I would consider to be one of the best I Quit matches I've seen, which was Tully Blanchard versus Magnum TA, when he tries to stab him in the eye. Long story short, the whole idea is that Eddie, sold his soul to the devil to get his title shot. Sold out, attacked from behind, and he wants his chance. Eddie, I love you. Eddie Kingston, I always hype you up because I think you've been a highlight of what a good promo looks like without scripts and everything. Your ring gear is not that good. You look like kind of a cosplay Green Power Ranger, but I love you. You are good. The match was good. The match was intense. How the match ended was Moxley had kind of like Kingston in a chokehold, but wrapped barbed wire around his neck and his forearms to choke him out. There was blood. It was gritty. And the idea of barbed wire poking through a person's throat, yeah, I would quit too. And then Eddie's post-match on Being Elite, which you guys can watch on YouTube, he gave a very good raw cut promo that didn't look like kayfabe. It was kayfabe saying, this is all I got. What was I supposed to do? It was supposed to happen. At the very end, you see what's happening here. Kenny versus John. Seems like Kenny's going to be the guy who finally takes the title off of Moxley, which is fine because I'm kind of over it. I've been over it for months. Moxley's been a victim of circumstances. A lot of the opponents that he had gotten the Rona, so the storylines kind of froze, but that's where we're at now. So that's where I leave you guys for the week.
Okay. All right, guys. I guess that is it for us. We had this is a very enjoyable episode. Thanks again, Jeremy Tache, for popping on and joining us for way longer than we had asked for. So even more thanks for sticking around a few more minutes. Thanks to BU and Freddie for joining us in the live show. And we'll see you guys next week. If you guys got an Xbox Series X, I guess you'll enjoy that. And your PS5 is coming out right soon this week too. I think they're both coming out. So
November 12th.
Yeah, you guys are enjoying that. While I And PC Master Race ain't got a Switch, so I don't have to worry about that. Anyways, that's it for me. I'm out. Peace.
Peace out, everyone.
Take care.
Derek, and he's lost 200 pounds in 1 year eating nothing but fat-free meatball hoagies. And here comes the first batter to lead off the inning. Burrowa digs in.